Hey guys, welcome back to BackPocketGameReviews, and today we're going to talk about if you should buy an Xbox One X. So a lot of you guys have asked me this question, and it's been something that's really hard for me to come up with an exact answer for. So a lot of you guys have been like, oh, are you getting one? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't believe I am. There's that part of me that wants to get it to review it for the channel, but $500 is quite a bit of money. And I mean, that's not a low amount of money. I mean, it's a low amount of money for what you're getting. So I don't want you to think that I'm trying to say that the Xbox One X isn't worth the $500 price tag, because by all means it is, especially with it having the vapor cooling chamber, and it's almost equivalent to a $500 pre-built computer. So I mean, it's bang for buck for what you're getting. They are not making any profit on the Xbox One X. They are selling it to you for what it costs for them to make one of these. So they're breaking even on it, which that's fine. I think that was probably the smartest way for them to go, especially if they really wanted people to jump on board with this. But a lot of people tried to say they should sell it for a loss. I don't necessarily 100% agree with selling hardware for a loss, because then that means you're essentially going to really have to push software, and not always the greatest software, to make sure you make the money back. But all in all, I think that the Xbox One X is a very impressive piece of hardware. Now, being able to say if it's right for you or necessarily what you should buy comes down to a couple of different things. So obviously, as a lot of you know, I have a PS4 Pro. The reason why I bought that PS4 Pro over a different model of PlayStation is because I didn't have another model of PlayStation. So when I was buying a PlayStation, I bought the PS4 Pro because I was like, okay, this is the highest graphics one. It's $100 difference between this and the base model that I could get, the Slim. So I went ahead and I went with the Pro, especially because it had the terabyte hard drive. Now, when I look back, I would still support that decision because I didn't have a PlayStation. But I already have an Xbox One S, which still has my 4K Blu-ray player, and it still has HDR. So the only thing I'm getting is that graphic resolution bump. Now, as I've told a lot of you, especially when I did my Switch video where I talked about if the Switch was underpowered, graphics alone don't make a game fun. It doesn't make gameplay all of a sudden that much more awesome. If you do care about graphics and you do have a 4K TV and you don't have an Xbox, that's the ideal person, I think, that should probably be buying an Xbox One X. Now, if you really care about graphics, like if graphics are really that big of a deal for you and you already have a 4K TV, then I could see where you might be interested in buying the Xbox One X. Now, I would also probably sell my One S if I were getting a One X. So it gets a little more, wouldn't be $500 necessarily. It'd be whatever I can sell my Xbox One S for. So we'll say like $150 is maybe what I would get out of that, since it's the limited edition Battlefield one. So then you'd take what? It would go down to $350 for the Xbox One X. That's still not enough for me to just want to drop into that just for the better graphics. We're kind of at that point in time again, as I said in the Switch video, where graphics don't look bad. I mean, it doesn't matter what you go to, graphics just don't look bad anymore. I grew up in a time where we had 8-bit games, so for me, pretty much anything we've gone to has looked tremendously better. Now, when you look back at like the N64 generation, obviously those graphics were very discernible from what we have today. But even if I jump back to a 360, it's not like I look at a 360's game like play and say, oh, that looks like garbage. It's just where technology has gotten us to now. So, I mean, it comes down, if you don't have a 4K TV, I could not understand why you would buy an Xbox One X. That makes no sense to me. Even if you just really, why would you pay $500 just to run 1080p at 60 FPS? Which it can do. It'll be able to run 1080p at 60 FPS if that's what you choose it to do. But in that same instance, I think the people that are really going to want this are going to want it for the higher resolutions, which you also run into this huge problem then here too. So the Xbox One X is superior to the PlayStation 4 Pro. And I'm sure all first-party games will take full advantage of that. So 4K Halo, yeah, I would love to play 4K Halo, and that is one of the updates you'll be getting, along with the Witcher update, which the PS4 Pro didn't get. Now, with that also being said, certain third-party games might get held back by lazy developers who don't want to do 2 updates to their game, one for the Pro and one for the X. So you might just get some ported over updates from the PS4 Pro. Now, not every game will be able to run in native 4K on the Xbox One X, which is a common misconception that a lot of people seem to think. It will run several games and probably quite a few more that'll be added down the road in native 4K. But to think that it's going to be able to run every game in native 4K is a bit naive. And it's not that it's not a powerful machine, it's just that it doesn't have that amount of power. I do think that it is a very impressive piece of hardware, but it's also a mid-console update. So this is a mid-console cycle update. For all we know, in 2020, we're getting a brand new Xbox and a brand new PlayStation. So am I going to pay $500 for 3 years of enhanced graphics? See where I'm going with this? That time frame, if this was $500 for, boom, another good 7 to 8 years added on to the life of that console, sure, that would probably make me buy into that. But also to that same extent, Xbox One X will always slightly be held back by the Xbox One still being relevant. I'm not saying the Xbox One shouldn't be relevant, I'm just saying they have to be able to make it run on both. So certain developers probably will make that their high model and then go back through and add on some texture packs rather than making it 2 separate resolutions that it's going to run at. So that's where it gets a little more difficult to fully want to buy into it. Now, if I didn't have an Xbox One, as I said, I would run right out and buy an Xbox One X. But as you all know, Xbox One was the first of the next-gen consoles that I bought. I do think it's smart for them to have a PS4 Pro competitor, so I'm not bashing Xbox for releasing this. I think it was a very smart move. And I think it was a very smart move for them to make it more powerful, especially when you're looking at the bang for buck you're actually getting out of this thing. It does have a lot of power. Even when you're putting it up against the PS4 Pro, it is more powerful than the PS4 Pro. So I think the people that this was really made for are the people who truly care about graphics. Like, graphics are their thing. But again, as I've stated, graphics aren't the end-all be-all for most people, so I don't necessarily know how well it's going to sell. Even PlayStation has been kind of mum about how many PS4 Pros they've sold. Now, I don't know really how it's going to do. I really hope it does very well for those who do want them. Obviously, it's already got a decent amount of support. Most of these are just going to be texture updates to games. So as much as I want to see this being groundbreaking technology, there's not going to be any exclusive game that's just built solely for this, where this power will be what's taken into mind while designing this game. So it's not like all of a sudden you're going to have this massively improved AI with these gorgeous textures, because that AI and those textures probably won't function very well on the original Xbox One. Which, to some degree, I would probably tell you the PS4 has also been what held back the PS4 Pro to some extent. Now, the PS4 Pro isn't like that immensely more powerful than the PS4. It is more powerful, just when you're looking at the Xbox One X and the Xbox One and PS4 Pro and the PS4, there is a much bigger gap between the Xbox One S and the One X. I also think it's a very confusing name that they picked for it. Even though it spells out Xbox, you know how it goes, 1X, the acronym would be Xbox. Crafty, right? So I'm not bashing it. I'm not saying that it's a bad product. I'm just telling you, it's hard for me to personally want to go and back it all head on as much as I would love to have one, and I have a 4K TV, that's a really hard purchase to justify just for some enhanced visuals. No touch-ups to anything else. So, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments, and if you're going to be picking up an Xbox One X. I would really like to hear your reasons why, and I would really like to hear what's making you really jump on board. If it's graphics, or if it is, maybe your original Xbox just isn't running that well anymore, and maybe it's time to upgrade. That's a part of the reason why I went to the One S, was because I was having issues with my disk drive. So, guys, let me know in the comments down below. Stick around too, because I'll have plenty more content coming for you, and I'll see you guys soon.